Winter camping is tricky. If you don't have the right gear, you're gonna be miserable. Because winter camping gear is so expensive, it's a lot to ask anybody to just shoot blindly and guess at the right gear. I just got back from winter camping in Colorado, above 10,000 feet. Temperatures plummeted overnight to about -5 degrees Fahrenheit. I wanted to highlight some of the gear that really stood out to me as exceptional or noteworthy. Let's start with one of the new pieces of gear that I think I got the most questions of, and I think is also maybe the most unique and best development that I have seen in backpacking, especially for cold weather backpacking. I had with me the Nemo Tensor Extreme sleeping mat. The big deal here is that this mattress, which is no bigger than a traditional mattress from a year ago, is actually rated for 8.5 R value. And what that means, if you're unfamiliar with it, is that it is extremely warm. One of the most important things that you can have on a winter campout is what separates you from the ground, or snow, or ice, or whatever it might be beneath you. And this is actually, in reality, more important than the sleeping bag itself. What often happens when you're laying on snow, or ice, or really cold ground is you tend to develop cold spots, especially if you are laying on your side and maybe you've got like an elbow or a knee that's kind of depressing down a little bit more than the rest of your body. That's where the cold is really going to transfer in. And what is truly amazing to me is that throughout the whole night, I was perfectly comfortable. After a really long time, I did start to feel that creep, but it was -5, and that's just going to happen. But all things considered, I was very impressed with the performance of this mattress. To compare, this is the previous Nemo Tensor from a generation ago. They just came out with the new Nemo Tensor. This is the old one, not the new one. And this is the new Nemo Tensor Extreme. These are both the same dimensions, 25 inches wide, 72 inches long, and square. And this one has an R value of somewhere around 4.3, I believe. And this one is 8.5. The difference in size is negligible. These are the same. And the difference in weight, I have a little scale right here. This thing weighs 21 ounces or 598 grams. This extreme upgrade in warmth is only 25 ounces or 717 grams. These are almost identical, and yet this one is vastly warmer. I was pairing it with a very warm sleeping bag, the Nemo Sonic -20 degree bag, and that's obviously going to make a factor. I was just warm and toasty all night with -5 degree temperatures, with a -20 degree sleeping bag, combined with a high quality winter mattress. I have a lot of experience with the Nemo Tensor, the regular version. I still feel like I need to get a little bit more testing on this before I give it a true and full review. The next thing I got the most questions about, as well as the most comments about, was this stove. This is the MSR Reactor. This is a stove that I don't see a lot of backpackers using, but I have a lot of experience and ties within the guiding community, and this stove is all over the place in the guiding community. I don't typically backpack with this stove. There's just lighter options that are out there for lightweight backpacking, but where this thing really excels is in winter. This stove is not terribly different from a Jetboil or the Windburner, also from MSR, where you have these integrated pot bottoms that just nestle in and lock nicely. The MSR Reactor, I think, just has the most bomber and potent heating element out of any stove that I'm aware of, especially for kind of like your regular isobutane camp stoves. I melted a lot of snow on this campout. It was my primary source of water, as well as heating up water for overnight, and this handled it amazingly. I started with a full canister. After a day of melting a lot of snow, I was still over 3/4 full. So that's pretty impressive. I felt like this thing was just sipping fuel. And now a lot of people have pointed out, and they're right to do so, that these kind of fuel canisters just aren't great in super cold weather. And a lot of people prefer liquid fuel. A while back, I had a break-in in my car and somebody stole my whisper light, and I just never got around to replacing it. For really cold camping, I would say use liquid fuel stoves, but all things considered, the Reactor, not very commonly seen in the backpacking community, but for mountaineering and guiding, this is all over the place, and it is a great stove. It's pricey, Like all winter gear, it's very expensive. I think this is like a $260 stove. If you need to melt snow and boil water quickly, there is no stove more potent than the MSR Reactor. This jacket is one of my true prized possessions. I bought this jacket almost a decade ago when I was spending 3 years as a guide, spending my winters outside. This was the jacket that made me truly comfortable in extreme conditions. And obviously it is a eye-catching, colorful jacket. And best of all, it is highly effective. So this is from a company called Norrøna. It's a Norwegian company. We don't see it a lot here in the US. And if you're a hiker or a backpacker or climber or certainly a mountaineer, you probably should be aware of Norrøna if you're not already. Unfortunately, I think this specific jacket model has been discontinued. I scoured the internet and I just couldn't find it. The closest one was the Down 750, but this is just my favorite jacket. It has absolutely incredible warmth to weight ratio. When I'm wearing this thing, I just feel like I can tackle just about any sort of winter conditions. Years ago when I bought this jacket, I was poor. I was a guide, and what I did was I actually used a service called Gear Trade, and Gear Trade is a really cool company that resells gear that is most typically returned to places like backcountry.com, REI. It offers a great opportunity to get secondhand gear. I bought this, I think at the time it was like a $600 or $700 jacket. I think I got it for like $250. And it's still cruising to this day, a decade later. On the other end of the budget spectrum is this roll of Reflectix. Ooh. See, good for getting a tan. I picked this up at Home Depot. I think it's like 18, maybe $25 for a roll of like 25 feet of this stuff. So it's relatively inexpensive. This thing is super lightweight. It rolls up incredibly small. It is easy. It's flexible. It's kind of indestructible. And this was maybe one of the most useful things that I had with me. When I was sitting on my snow bench and making dinner and stargazing and just being out there, I was sitting on this, just folded over a couple of times, and it provided a really nice insulation break between the snow and me. I also added this in under my sleeping mat, as well as just giving me like something I could lay stuff out on. I also made this fun thing, which I pointed out in the video, but it's a water bottle holder, and I just used some Reflectix tape to put it together. But honestly, this thing weighs almost nothing, and for cold weather, or if I want to put hot water in here and keep it warmer for longer, this is just, I actually feel pretty proud of this thing. So I did want to talk about that. And yeah, get yourself some cheap stuff and do it yourself. I've been getting a ton of questions about the Mystery Ranch Radix pack, and this is brand new. It is on the market as of now, I think. But I've had some advanced testing of this pack. I've been using it since last summer on the Colorado Trail. And this is the 57 liter model. There's also a 47 and I think a 31, some kind of unique sizing options. But this is the biggest one, and I definitely highly enjoy this pack. I do have a full review that I think will be coming out next week on this backpack and the backpack lineup. So make sure, if you are really interested in this backpack, make sure you stay tuned for that one. This will be a more abbreviated review. But honestly, I am impressed with this backpack. Mystery Ranch is evolving, I think, and they're seeing that, you know, gear in general is getting lighter. So they don't necessarily have to make these backpacks that are great at carrying 50, 60, 70 pounds because, well, if you're a hunter, you're probably carrying that. But if you're a backpacker, you're probably just carrying a lot less. What they've done is they've really lightened the backpack up while still having a full frame here and a yoke and good hip belts. There's nicely shaped shoulder. There's S-shaped shoulders. Whew, that is a tongue twister. S-shaped shoulder straps, an adjustable torso length, all the things that you would expect in a full frame, high performance, comfort focused backpack, while shedding a lot of the weight in getting it more towards what a thru hiker or a lightweight hiker is going to really enjoy. So Mystery Ranch has shaved a couple of pounds off this backpack and still has some pretty nice features. Some things that I really like off the bat are this nice, generous side pockets, as well as a nice, generous dump pocket that has some bungees. I stored my shovel in here as well as some odds and ends. I've got room for tripods, trekking poles. This is my snow probe. It's got a location to add on extra gear like a tent. Obviously, in most cases, I think a lot of people are putting their tents inside their pack, but if you do have bulky add-on stuff or sleeping mattresses, D accordions that you're going to put on the outside, you've got a space for it. One of the things that's unique about a backpack like this, where you are going more towards lightweight backpacking, is the ability to get inside. You've got a full side entry access point here that you can get at your gear, your sleeping bag, layers, food, whatever it might be. You can get into it with this one zip. It's not as comfortable as the Bridger, mostly because it doesn't have the vest strap style that I do kind of wish that they had put on here. But I really like that they've shed a lot of weight, shed 2 pounds off the pack, while still making what they're known for, a comfortable pack that can carry heavy loads and is just highly functional with lots of organization and thoughtful elements to the backpack. I think that this being in the 3-pound range will introduce it, allow itself to be, will open the door to a lot more hikers and backpackers out there. Very cool backpack, and stay tuned for the full review next week. Just a quick note, I did bring a snow probe, which this is particularly useful for any backcountry skiers, that this is in case of avalanche and you're looking for people potentially buried under an avalanche. That's the main purpose of this. I did want to bring something so I could check snow depth for where I was going to kind of dig my snow pit. And it really wasn't super needed because there wasn't that much snow, but still helpful to have something like this. On the same note, I did bring a shovel with me. This is from Backcountry Access. Again, a lot of this type of equipment is best for backcountry skiers. They're definitely going to be having equipment like this. But if you are doing winter backpacking where you are in deep snow, having a snow shovel is really important. Now, I don't have a snow blade or a snow saw that would have made cutting those blocks and bricks extra efficient, but you can still do it with just a shovel. And for the amount of weight, these things are actually fairly light. If you're going to be winter camping in deep snow, you just got to have something like this. Another piece of gear that I got a ton of questions about is the MSR Access tent. This is a really nice tent. It fits a 25-inch wide pad while still having some extra room for gear on the sides and a little bit of extra room at both the feet and at the head ends. The downside of this tent is truly just its moisture management. Now, this has been pointed out before, and it's not really a new thing about this tent. Now, the other thing that I found is that because it is a small tent, and in general, for winter camping, you want as small of a tent as you can realistically get away with, because the smaller the space, the less extra air that's going to be in there, which means it's going to be warmer. But what happens is in a tent like this is as you start moving around and shifting, the frost builds up, and that will transfer onto your other things. It'll transfer onto your sleeping bag. You'll get up and you'll kind of brush your head on the tent and bring down a bunch of snow and frost on you, which is certainly what happened to me. At the price point, it's, I think, again, a $650 or $680 tent. Everything with winter camping is expensive. If you want to be like Luke with the Outdoor Boys and just not bring a tent or just go bushcraft style, then there's other options. But if you want to go like backpacking, mountaineering style, then it just costs you a lot. Something simple that I really like about this tent is actually just how it's stored. It's kind of stored like a rope bag. And I did want to point out one more thing, which is something I did talk about in the video, but having some good wide snow stakes is a critical, I think, just really important thing to add in. And just having extra surface area means that these will actually root in snow and create good anchors, as opposed to your typical backpacking stakes that are just, they perform very poorly in the snow. This is the negative 20-degree Sonic from Nemo. When it comes down to it, the sleeping mattress paired with a good sleeping bag can make or break your winter camping experience. I was really pleased with the Sonic. Now, I have a negative 20 sleeping bag that I've used for years, and used it extensively as a guide. And so I've been hesitant to give it up and to try something new, especially when I know that that bag is just bomber, tried and true, something I can trust. And yet, I feel like this bag is an upgrade. Now it's big, but all winter sleeping bags are gonna be big. But what I do like about it are some simple things. I like the compression sack that it comes with. It makes it a lot easier to get the bag in and out of. And let's pull it open. Okay, since I just pulled it out of its compression sack, it's got some re-lofting to do. There's a couple of cool things that I do want to note about this bag. It's an 800 fill power down bag. It's got these thermo gills, which I've seen on other Nemo bags. Genuinely, if it's not gonna be, below zero, then this bag is probably overkill. So having the ability to just release some of that warmth is really nice. So the thermo gills are really good. Actually, I started the night with these thermo gills open because I was curious to see if I could tell a difference. And as I obviously got a little bit chillier throughout the night, I closed these up and I did feel like the bag held on to heat better. The zipper is really clean. It's hard to do with a bulky bag that has a ton of loft to have a zipper that doesn't get stuck in its own fabric. Whatever witchcraft Nemo did with this zipper, I have been thoroughly impressed with it. And it has this really nice baffle that really helps keep air from escaping out the zipper. So if you are getting a winter sleeping bag or you're gonna be doing some cold weather camping, something to watch out for is a sleeping bag that has a baffle that will go along the zipper to really help keep this being the coldest spot in a bag. With those thermo gills, you can actually zip up from the inside as well. If you just wanna have like half power, you can open them up from the outside. And if you want that full power of ventilation, open it up from the inside as well. One other thing that's really nice is there is an extra little foot box fabric. This is gonna protect the sleeping bag from bringing that moisture off the tent walls and into the sleeping bag and putting it in the most vulnerable part of the sleeping bag, which is the foot box. I thought the one downside of the sleeping bag was the size of the hood. I wanted to see this just a tiny bit deeper and wider. And now I know that the reason is that the smaller the hood, the warmer it will be. But I still like to be able to fit my head fully inside, as well as sometimes just like a little bit of my down jacket. That was kind of my only real knock. All things considered, this bag is super warm. It's pretty overkill if you're not going to be in really cold temperatures. But for those who are doing aggressive winter camping or certainly mountaineering expeditions, then this is a truly bomber sleeping bag. Winter sleeping bags are just expensive, and there's no other way around it. But at least this bag is slightly cheaper than the one that I originally bought, which was an $800 sleeping bag. This one is about $660. Still quite the hefty price tag. If winter camping is something that you really are interested in doing, having a great sleeping pad or mattress, as well as a great sleeping bag, means that you can truly be comfortable in extremely cold situations. And if you're comfortable, then you're gonna be having a good time. You're gonna be sleeping well, and you're gonna wanna do it again. Getting down to the end here, folks, the Outdoor Vitals LoftTech down booties. I guess they're not down, they're LoftTech. Having down booties or insulated booties is a total game changer, and they make a huge difference. Two things. These help take up extra space in the least efficient part of your sleeping bag, which is the foot box. And when I say least efficient part of the sleeping bag, it really isn't the sleeping bag itself that's the problem. It's your feet. They're the farthest away from your heart. Blood has transferred all the way down the length of your body. It's what is most likely to get cold in the night. And if you have down booties, they make a huge difference. They help fill that volume. They help keep your feet warm. They're just a pleasant thing to add in that for cold weather, I'm never gonna not take something like this. And these Outdoor Vitals versions, they pack down very, very small. They're super lightweight. The only downside I will say to this particular model is that they don't have a bottom to them like some of my other down booties do, which make them suitable for a little bit of walking around camp. These are really exclusively just for sleeping. They're very warm, they're very helpful, and they're so satisfying to use. So if you're gonna do some cold weather camping, these little babies are a true gem. Last little thing is my headlamp. This is the LED Lenser Neo 5R. It's their running headlamp. And what makes it a running headlamp is that the battery pack is on the back. It has a little flashing red light. So if people are, say, driving by you as you're running, You've got some sort of indicator that, hey, there's a human there. But the thing that I really like about this for winter camping is that it just has this extra battery pack, which means it can hold a charge for a lot longer. It's got the ability to broadcast a really bright light. This is one of the pieces of gear that I was backpacking with in the Grand Canyon on my epic that I had last year where Dan Becker got rescued. I had to do a lot of nighttime navigation, a lot of time at night just with my headlamp on as we had an emergency. I used this on a 5-day backpacking trip with heavy nighttime usage, including nighttime navigation. Never needed to recharge it, and it was still able to broadcast a really nice bright beam. Those are the essential pieces of winter gear that I took on my winter campout, and honestly, they made a huge difference for me. If you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. That wasn't every item I had. It wasn't every piece of gear. It wasn't every piece of clothing. And I'll probably keep doing a couple more videos detailing winter camping gear that are really important and my experiences with them. That's it from me. Thanks so much for watching this video. And if, again, you haven't seen my winter camping trip, make sure you go check that video out. It's one of my favorites. And you all have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.